waterfalls, and we mentioned it to Sarah, and she thought, geez, that'd be a good idea to document them. And so for the past 4 or 5 months, we've been trying to document the local waterfalls.
We've also been trying to figure out the pictures that we've already taken. Where did we see this? Well, they start to look a little similar.
Yes, they're most of our waterfalls are in this on the West Hills. It's called because right where Ginny is pointing out, the topography drops from about 1,200 feet to 600 feet at the valley where the West Canal is. That's about 600 feet above sea level, and the top of the hill is about 1,200 feet. So in that mile or so, it drops almost 600 feet, and that's why we get such great waterfalls. The topsoil is actually, some places it's only 20 feet deep there. It was deposited at the last glacier, which is about 14,000 years ago, and the runoff, because of the steep hill, has uncovered the rocks underneath, which we've learned were from the Devonian era, and that was 400 million years ago. So basically the bedrock is pretty old stuff, and that's what formed some of the nice waterfalls, because it's so old that it started to crack and chip, and when the water came rushing down the hill, it was able to wash off a good portion of it to form the nice waterfalls.
Hey Rich, let me point out the major streams, and then this way if there's any other local names that people know about that aren't on the map. This is just a highway map here, but I've got a 1916 map here of West Sparta. And they point out, you know, this is a 2 Mile Creek, but it was originally called Swamp Creek for whatever reason, because there's not much of a swamp up through here. Now this is just kind of like a little feeder stream that goes into it. It would cross over by where Diane and Gene Moffitt's property is, go through their land. Does anybody know if that's got a name there? All right.
No, but I do know the history behind the Swamp Creek. That was a swamp, and it was drained, and now that's why it's a part of the preserved wetlands, because that was called Cancerega Creek at one point, Cancerega Swamp, excuse me, and it was drained, and that's part of the state preservation of drained wild wetlands.
Right. This thing here, 2 Mile Creek, is what, 8 miles long?
Yes, it's actually
Okay.
8 miles in total length.
But down here, let me make sure I'm on the, this one here was called Byersville Creek, and I haven't seen another name for it. I mean, that's what's on the map. If anybody else knows.
Well, I don't know what year your map was.
1916.
1916. Well, we've got an article from 1846 which called it Butter Brook,
Okay.
and that actually told us about waterfalls half a mile from Byersville, which could be the result, because we didn't find a 60-foot waterfall there, but where Byersville is located on that map, well, actually it's right there where
Right there.
Where
Right
the-
about there is where the waterfall.
Okay, so you guys are calling this Butter Brook, because that's
Brook.
apparently what it got called later on.
Buttermilk Falls.
and that was
Right.
Buttermilk Falls is what's locally known.
And
when we
also, at one time, it was called Stoner Creek because Samuel Stoner had the first grist mill in town up in Byersville, and he ran it with water power off that creek, so.
Okay.
When we start the presentation, we started down here and we'll go upstream. We didn't actually walk it that way, but
All right.
that's how we'll do it in the presentation.
And this little thing here is called Red School Creek, for lack of a better name. It just comes off from Red Creek. And then this one here that goes down from there, it's hard to see, that's Rock Spring. They're right here. See, where am I? Well, it looks like there's something off from here that's Rock Spring Creek.
Is that on the 1916 map?
Yeah,
The one you're calling Red School comes way up in here. It actually starts up in here.
okay.
Goes down there, and there's a branch that comes down through here and joins it. It goes behind the fire hall. We named that Chasey Creek because this used to be Chasey Road years ago. And it's like on this side of the road and it's on this side of the road, so we just dubbed it Chasey Road for the presentation tonight.
Okay.
So if you see Chasey Road or Chasey Creek, that's the one we're referring
And
to.
what did you say that was originally called? Rock Spring?
Well, not only is it called Rock Spring, it's on the map, it only goes to about here. It doesn't even show this section back here.
Ah,
So, you know, maps aren't always right, and, you know, maybe that's just what it was at the time when they did it, I don't know.
This part was all dry every summer because right in here is behind my house and
Okay.
that's dry every summer.
which we really appreciate the input because as Doug's bringing this map forward, we tried like Dickens to find this, but we couldn't find any map that had names, so we appreciate input there also,
And the big one, where's Bradner Creek?
right down the corner.
Yeah, down here. That should be Bradner Creek.
Yeah.
And those are pretty much the main, well, wait, I take it back. Up here by McKay Road, there's a couple of branches that don't have names. I don't know if anybody has a, I was just gonna call them McKay Road Creek because it crosses McKay Road, but there's no name on the map for them, and I can't find it anyplace else, so I don't know if there's a local name or not.
We didn't have any more luck finding on local maps either.
I know Dave Palmer mentioned it, but down Coffee Hill from Miller to Stoner, right straight down from, you know, the north-south section, down in there, there's a, what's it, probably about a 30 or 40 foot waterfall.
Between these
They
two?
took pictures.
They got
That's
that one.
McNair, that would be the McNair Gully Fall.
Yeah,
Okay.
And that goes right out, that comes right up by Alice Berg's place. That little creek that's right up behind the barn, that's,
so we must have been out to your place, hope we didn't trespass.
so that's way down on the old road.
That actually turns out to have several waterfalls on it, and one that's even, David showed us one at about 20, 25 foot. There's about a 40 footer down, about a half a mile further down.
Okay, good. No, I just wanted to try and get the names that you guys were calling to, you know, gel with the names on this map and gel with whatever was on the highway map. But like you said, over the years, as people move in, move away, names of creeks changes, so. All right, I'll get out of the way and,
The major stream, the Cancerega Creek, does border us, but we didn't touch on it at all because it just didn't, just forms a border and doesn't do any falling for us. I think I hit you with all the historical stuff, so this is the one that leads to Bradner, and obviously you can see if it had a mill on it in 1814, it's been around and for a long, long time. The education department put this sign up, or at least said they paid for it. And this is off of 36 where we started. Bradner starts up in Ashen actually, and it ends up in the Cancerega Creek way down past the West Canal, West Ditch.
It's been a really dry summer. A lot of the gullies that we walked in, there was no water at all. Bradner had the best water of all the gullies that we walked for August. We're waiting for some rain so we can get some more good pictures of other gullies. It was a real nice surprise. Came up, we'd hear the waterfalls. You know, we'd all say, "Oh, I hear something, I hear something." You go around the little bend and come out of the shady trees, and here's this beautiful double waterfalls.
When we first saw it, we saw it from the top, and boy, we just dying to get to the bottom of it where we could really see it. We ended up having to walk up the creek to really get to it well.
Is this off the Coffee Hill?
Right
Yes.
behind Bill Canfield's.
Right behind Mr. Canfield's, yep, and he did give us permission, we have permission on this one. This has actually been a swimming hole for over 100 years. He's obviously 89, and he said when he was a boy, they told him about it from his parents, so they've been using it for an awful long time. And if there was a mill on there in the early 1800s, probably a couple hundred years where we've been using this stream. The bottom falls is about 14 foot, and the top one's about 20, and they both have a nice swimming hole at the bottom part of it. This is a view of the top of that.
How deep is that water right there at the top of at the bottom of the top of fall?
Deep enough that I wasn't brave enough to go in and find out.
It was a
At least
real,
6 foot.
real hot, real humid day, but that water was icy cold.
Yeah.
The kids were swimming or jumping off a rope
the
into
bottom.
it, so it was at least 6 foot. Yeah, it struck us. This is the original one from the side where we tried to get down.
That's a person there, about 5'5".
Oh, really?
Give you an idea what the height
Oh
is.
my goodness.
Well, we were impressed. Bradner, this is in mid-August or late August, and they had this much water.
It's spring fed, it's a registered trout stream, so that's why.
Ah,
It has to maintain coolness to be called a trout stream.
Where did the trout come from? I mean, did it come from
They used to feed
January?
it, but since Wilcox bought and blocked it off, they no longer stock it.
Oh,
He blocked it off, he didn't want the liability,
oh,
so.
mhm.
we did get from trout fishermen that they've been up and down, but they seem to stop. And that's probably why they stopped fishing it. Oh, too far. This is the top of the stream. When we first came upon it, we saw the great big falls. You can see there's a second one down there. But until we reached the top of their head, we couldn't tell exactly how nice it was.
I think that's the top of the lower falls.
It's beautiful.
And there's this
Sorry.
swimming hole in there.
Yeah, beautiful.
This was a surprise. We started out one day, we didn't have a whole lot of time to hike together, and we started out early in the morning, we don't usually do that, and got this wonderful sun coming through the trees.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh my
It's a good view of, some of the rock formations. And you can see how crumbly it is, and it is slate, but it was, because it's been around for 400 million years, it's crumbled and broken enough that the water was able to wash it away even so until it got down to it tends to break on an even fault line, so.
Slater shape.
That is beautiful.
Now this, Dave informs us, after all this, it's so beautiful.
This was one of our favorites until Dave informed us of something.
600 feet into Ashen.
Oh,
100 feet?
600.
Oh, 600 feet.
So this really isn't
We can't-
ours anymore.
You accidentally claim it.
What's 600 feet amongst friends? One
It's
of
the
the,
same creek.
Same
yes,
creek.
this is Bradner's Creek, and this is right near the top, and according to the map, it goes about a quarter of a mile and then stops. And of course, to have that much water coming out of it, it can't go a quarter of a mile and stop. Apparently there's a springs or a pond or something, but it's beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
now were these all in August also?
Yeah, yeah. It's all August, it was
Must be 20 cascades there. What happened?
Now we're into Debris Gully.
This is a new one.
We named it Debris Gully. For lack of a better name. There was no water in August in Debris Gully.
We have waterfall pictures, because we couldn't identify anything, we didn't associate any with these, but we have a whole lot of pictures that we took of in the spring that we didn't really at that point want to document, so.
It was lush.
It must have had a lot of water in it at one point to be able to move these big trees.
Mushrooms and that's what it looks from up on Rock Spring Hill Road.
Yeah.
There's a tire down there.
May not look impressive here, but climbing up and down it alone was, it's a good 60 feet at least. And this shows a little steeper. It got us our exercise. We tried to take pictures that would identify it and let us have a way to identify it from here on out.
This is what we're calling Butterbrook, the one that goes by McKay, the waterfall that most people know about. This would be down by 36, 390. I don't think we're supposed to, but we came through that tunnel to get down here to start at basically at the lower level.
As you can see, there wasn't much water. It was August, and we had to get this pretty tricky just to make it look like it was wet.
This is a different time of the year, but the first big waterfalls on Butter Brook is this double waterfall.
The first from which direction?
We were going upstream,
Upstream.
and that log helps us identify which pictures belong there, because this is one of those things that, okay, where did we see this? Where was this waterfall? Different time of year. Still got a good lot of water in there. This is, we call it a cascade. We're trying to get a definition between a waterfall and a cascade and what constitutes a waterfall. This is probably midway between that waterfall we just showed you, the double waterfall, and the one that's coming up, the buttermilk waterfall. This is about halfway. There's a nice cascade of water.
The best definition for waterfall we got was water traveling in a vertical direction. And we got that from the geologist in Geneseo. So definitions left a little to be desired. A brook was something smaller than a creek. A creek was a stream that flowed constantly. And that was from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So it's one of our cascades. Oh, there it
There's
is.
buttermilk. Doesn't look like that right now. If you walk over there, you're not gonna see that. Sarah can attest to.
Yeah, it's just a trickle right now, just a trickle. We were there this week.
Now you said, Sarah told us that a surveyor friend told us this was 85 feet, I believe, from top to bottom.
Craig Welch said he did survey this line, and the camera tells him how high something is, and he said it was 85 feet, so.
This was just recently sold about 10 years ago, I guess, this tract of land, and on that map that they used to survey it for the sales on parcels, they did call this Stoner Creek also. We didn't know if they, Stoner?
Stoner. They call it Stoner Creek.
Okay.
This is at the top of it.
Now it's more like what it looks like today.
I don't think that's Stoner Creek, is it? Oh, that would be up above the waterfalls. This is why we went down to Pike's Gully, where Wallace's live now, and started going up looking for the 60-foot waterfall that the article said was within a half a mile of Byersville. So we're thinking there's still another waterfall to be seen. And it was in August and it was dry.
This was after the second rain though, so it had a little more water. First time we went up it was even worse. That's the bridge over Byersville, Tricyville Road.
That's the creek that fed the mill that Sue's talking about.
Now there would probably be like a 4-foot waterfall. So if there's water there, that would look sort of nice.
I think it was about 9-foot drop. So that's 1823.
Oops, I carried away. This is back at the top of Butter. I think this is where we got a little mixed up. This looks like it's part of the Chasey, or what did Rock Spring Creek.
Looking for rocks from there.
Call it Hard Rock.
That's about a 25-foot drop, but you can't really see it at this angle. We got caught up with some. We were really amazed at how the rock seemed to be chiseled out to almost cut.
The geologist had some explanation, but it was kind of over my head.
Well, this,
The pressure of the earth and
But that 6-foot or 6-inch ridge of rock is is characteristic of this whole western New York region. He did have a name for that, but at the time we thought we were looking at water, and so we did not get the name right on that. But it is characteristic actually of all western New York. Everybody has that 6-inch layer.
This is another dry gully.
It's one of the feeders for one of our streams, and I think that's what, they look so unimpressive, but if they have 5 or 6 other feeders coming in, that's what happens to them. Obviously why we called it Heart Rock Gully.
This is 2 Mile. The 9-mile creek that's named 2 Mile. Sarah says, no, there's no water in it this year. This was in the, I think, November.
When it had water.
And it doesn't have any big waterfalls, but it has a lot of these little trickling ones.
Is the lower portion?
No, that's behind me before it gets to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that
This
section in
is
flux.
over near Moffitt's.
Okay.
This was in August. This piece of rock was interesting. The water goes around both sides of it.
Oh, really?
For some reason, it didn't say water goes over here.
Oh,
It just didn't get washed away. It's just sitting there like an island.
For sure.
Oh, this is on Chasey. This is the creek we call Chasey. On Red School. This is the top of a waterfall that we came to, and we were yelling at each other, "Don't get so close."
It looks a lot scarier in person.
That was
Big drop.
pretty big, yeah.
So we went to the bottom and walked up.
That's pretty. Wow.
I think this is last, well, actually a year ago, May.
There we go, Mike. Now, if you're at the right angle and you're looking up here, every once in a while you see the top of a truck going along 390.
There's a local now.
Find any hidden caves?
Small caves. Caves you might put a bear in, but not major caves. Yeah, well, there's a symbol that we looked at, about the size for a bear, that I got a little nervous at. Jenny liked to go out on that rock up there. That scared me also.
I was out up here.
This is right behind the firehouse, actually. Just looking at the flat rocks always amazes us.
Some of those rocks would step on them and they just crumble right underneath our foot. And the geologist says, yeah, he knew all about it. Didn't bother to explain that one. Just like stepping on a cracker, just broke all to pieces. This rock doesn't belong there. It's not our native rock. And it's right in the middle of that gully.
Dropped by a glacier.
Yep.
He says it's indicative of most of the rocks that were dropped by the glacier around Avon. He identified it right away. He said, oh yeah, that's one of the Avon rocks. I haven't found any rocks in Avon, but I guess that's what they look like.
That waterfall that had all that water, this is what it looks like in August.
Oh, really?
The same waterfall, this waterfall. It's all dry, just trickling. This waterfall was Rich's and my first date. That's where I took him. He came up from New Jersey, and he said, you want to get together? I said, yeah, I'll take you for a hike. Bring some boots.
I'm not going any farther. I think that might be the end of it. I don't know anybody else, but I'm a novice at PowerPoint.
What'd you say?
I'm a novice at PowerPoint.
Me too. Never used it.
some with the video and sound. It's really, just adds a whole lot of another dimension.
Yeah, it does.
Of course, Ginny tends to get in the way of all the pictures.
I blame the photographer on that.
When we first started taking videos, we were turning the camera to do the best with the picture, and then we found out on the computer you can't turn it back, so we had sideways waterfalls.
Oh. Water flowing uphill.
Yes, and turns out there's no good way of changing those around either.
Keep your camera upright, huh?
Yeah, do it a little bit, keep it upright.
This must have been early in the year, huh? When they did the movie. There's some decent amount of water.
Yeah, that was an early one where we weren't sure that it's Bradner, and that's right where it splits. There's a portion that goes up into Ocean for about 4 miles, and it's a very unimpressive part of it.
He never tells me when he's doing the movie, so I think I'm just not gonna talk to him anymore.
Yeah. We just stopped beside the road thinking that there might be a waterfalls there, and that's how we started doing it. Now, well, we're getting a little input from folks, and it's helping out a lot. Hey, there's one.
That's too bad.
It's a pretty good trick. Oh, now if our
Now,
waterfalls
see,
really
he
did
could do that.
that.
I
Figured
couldn't
out how to do it. Yay!
Genius. Now that's the top of Bradner, that's supposedly 600 feet into Oshie. And that's in mid-August.
We couldn't find any way to get up either side of it to find out where that stream went from there.
Dave told us how to do that, so we'll figure that one out now.
Starts up in, across from Warren Bonner and Spring Fed, and the little feeder down out of Washington Center, it's a little creek.
Well, if our waterfalls really could go sideways, we definitely have a tourist attraction. Yeah.
Well, part of the idea was, when Sarah asked us to put them together, was we're hoping for any input that might help us to preserve and protect and open this up to the public, and it looks like that's what your mission statement is. Because some of these things are totally inaccessible, and it just seems like such a waste of beauty to.
I think that's something that's gonna be discussed at that trails conference, is how to create new trails and deal with insurance issues and
That would be great.
private property issues.
This is Bradner again on the double waterfalls.
That's the upper one. You can tell it's got all this little cascade over here.
The lower ones have always been called Bradner, the upper ones are called Cougar, the Cougar Falls.
Cougar?
That's what's on the map, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Cougar, C-O-V-E-R-T. That's the big farm up at the pond there,
Oh, I think I might have heard that.
which is only a couple hundred feet above the 60 foot.
Which is what it showed on the map.
Cougar.
Was there a picnic spot there years and years and years ago?
Yes,
Well,
they-
we
yes.
always called it Covert's time.
Cougar Pond, and that's where, Cougar Road, and that's where we used to have our reunions there years ago. I got pictures of people up there.
Okay.
And this is the 30s and 35, 38, 40.
Spell it again, Dave.
C-O-V-E-R-T.
Well, that's terrific.
It's a big bass on it. That's right.
Well, that's terrific. That's the kind of information we're looking for, because that's,
The water is so clear.
oh yeah, clear and cold. The stream was about 15 to 20 degrees below the outside temperature. It was 94 while we were walking the stream, and it felt nicer down there.
day in August, you kinda wonder what it's doing in the springtime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't, or, yeah, you can't even get up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we found kids doing it. It was,
Over and over again.
Jenny took her turn too.
I didn't jump in though. Let's keep going.
Whose kid is that?
Same kid, really fast kid.
He doesn't even go
That
out.
long time ago. Yeah.
And it's probably our best shot of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's about 100 degrees at
These degrees, you can do that, get older, can't handle it.
Kids were, somebody had done put up rope for them and rope to help you get to the top falls too. It was kind of nice. I don't think they were too sure about me, so.
They are having a good old time.
Yeah. Not much different than they probably did 100 years ago. Yeah, Mr. Canfield had expressed some concerns. Apparently there'd been some vandals down there. Some of the folks were taking advantage of having parties. So he posted it, but whatever it was must have been very persistent. Just to get there, it's not easy.
They walk up to me down the hall.
That's what we did.
That's it.
And I think that's pretty much the end of the presentation, but you can see, well, there's some beautiful waterfalls in our little town of 33 square miles. We got more in our share, and actually a lot we haven't discovered.
I think the stories, like Dave saying that there used to be a picnic area up at the top of one of them, and they'd hold reunions. I mean, those are the kind of things we'd like to gather, sort of. There's history in each one of these waterfalls too. So any of those stories that people know. Dave, the one falls, which they haven't yet found, is the McNair Falls, is that right?
They walked it.
Yes.
You did get
Recently
it,
he gave it to them, yes.
but it's not in here.
No.
Okay. So did you, what is the story of that one, about the suicide?
Alice, don't you recall that the McNair that lives where you live, walked up there and hopped over the falls?
And ultimately he died, but it's, I don't know, supposedly it's 50 feet or more, I don't know, it's a long way up.
So that'd be the second
Beautiful
fall.
fall.
Be the second one, yeah.
Probably
As soon as I
somebody who
saw it.
went up there as kids, you have.
Yeah.
It's up towards the upper third of that creek where it bends and then comes down.
Mhm.
'Cause up on top, it's pretty flat, there's nothing there, but all of a sudden the gully turns and
It's quite a gully, I can tell you that.
He walked it.
So is the lore that it was an accident or a suicide?
It's up for grabs, I think.
So it's really not for sure.
One doesn't really know. I think, is it Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah.
I think he probably know more about that than I do.
No, not really. In fact, I never even heard of it called Suicide Falls before.
No, I never did.
What was the decade that we're talking about?
Probably the 50s, would you think?
1950s?
Yeah, I don't know.
And was it a young person or an old person?
It was a younger person,
Like a youth?
20-year-old perhaps.
20-year-old, okay. Well, there's all these little stories to be gathered about our past, the past of our community. Let's give these folks a big hand. Fantastic beginning, and I do say
Thanks a
beginning.
lot, Dave.
Yep.
We couldn't have done any
Because,
without him.
we know you're gonna go back when there's more water, and we know you'll find some more too for us. But very exciting. And Doug, thank you so much
Yes.
for your special effort to facilitate this.
Welcome.
Doug comes from, is it Honeoye or Honeoye Falls?
Honeoye Falls.
Yeah, so whenever he comes over to do things for us, you know, he's got quite a trek to do them. But any other comments or questions?
How high does it have to be before it's a waterfall?
Glad you asked that. We asked the geologist, we asked Merriam-Webster, we asked
Conservatory.
Conservatory.
DEC.
There is no definition. If it's 2 foot, 1 foot, it could be called a waterfalls. Personally, we don't really get too excited if it's not 3 or 4 foot at least. But there is no vertically falling water counts as a waterfalls according to the dictionary.
Water going down.
Yeah, I listened to a geologist years ago over at Hemlock Park. We had a guy, he was a geology professor down at MCC, and he came out, because you know Hemlock Park has all those fossils and the rocks and everything. And then after that, we went up to Reynolds Gulch in Springwater, which was also a lot like these, and had a mill on it. But one of the things he pointed out is that 150 years ago, all the creeks and rivers around here were a lot deeper, a lot faster flowing. But before the European settlers got here, there wasn't really much in the way of natural erosion. And one of the reasons we have so many gullies, like in Springwater and around here, is when the glaciers were retreating about 10, 11,000 years ago, as they melted, the water went down underneath the glacier and then ran out underneath the bottom, because water is heavier, gravity forces it down, and that's why we have all these gullies. Those gullies are actually where the water came down and scored out the earth. And
So they were started, the erosion was started during the glacial period.
oh yeah,
On those things.
right. The landscape that we have now has been relatively unchanged since the last glacier. What you see, I mean, except for plants. 200 or 300 years ago, it was full of giant oaks and elm trees and stuff, and they're all gone. Now we have the maples and everything else. But as far as the physical formation of the land, that was the last environmentally changing event we had, was the glacier. And of course, you got to remember, some of these glaciers were 1 mile to 2 miles thick. It was tremendous weight. Over where I live in Honeoye Falls, over in Mendon, we have things called, they're canes, combs, kilns, and they have 2 or 3 other, these are these little mounds that you see every once in a while. And actually what they are, they're a whole bunch of debris that the glacier kind of dragged back, and then as the glacier melted, it just left it there. And so we ended up with these, that's what Mendon Ponds Park is. And Mendon Ponds Park is a very good example of what happened after the glacier retreated. But I was going to say, for some of these creeks around here, we wonder how they ran mills and stuff. They had a lot more water to work with. Over in Springwater, there's 2 or 3 instances of when the spring runoff came, what they call the freshet in the spring, where it wiped out mills, it wiped out houses. There were several people carried away and drowned. So these would have been really rivers, where today they're just little trickles most of the time.
Well, you know, there's better places. When the first people came around, there were better places than these hills to farm, and there were better places than these hills to live in. And it could be that the water that was present and falling really was what first attracted folks here for the mills. And so they really are kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say,
important part of
Colonel
our history.
Rochester, he had one of the first carding mills about 1811, I think, in Scottsburg. And same thing, that there was one.
Colonel Rochester?
Colonel Rochester.
Yes, I've heard that. And that's just across